me know when we're going live.
We've been live for 1 minute.
You don't say. Welcome, gang. Gonna be a little different today.
Youth leader, youth worship leader, Steve Messina.
Hell yeah.
Uncle Steve. Is this a variant on liberal Steve?
That's what I want the kids to call me. I don't know anything about that world. What's that? What's a youth? What happens there?
I don't know. It's actually kind of a weird dynamic. You don't really see that dynamic anywhere else. You just get a bunch of kids get together and sing songs and do charitable things and go on campouts and then there's just some adults that dedicate their life to hanging out with them.
Hell yeah.
And there tend to be a stereotype to it, which isn't always true, but it's not altogether uncommon.
Okay.
Of like a young guy that kind of hasn't really grown up and probably should.
Yeah.
And it's like he's willing to do the job that other people aren't, so that's cool, but also it's kind of like are we taking someone of questionable judgment and placing them in a position of significant influence over very easily moldable minds?
I was wondering about that. Does
that seem to like kind of fit your bill a little bit?
How do you apply? What's the website?
I don't think that there's really a central website for all youth leaders.
Yeah, decentralized. I like it. Cool. Now I'm in.
I like that. We should start episodes that way often.
What, talking about ways to, music?
What's up, Mark Metz? Mark Metz says, I see we're on the same wavelength again. Earlier, I thought of natural law possibly being Antichrist. God created humans to have dominion over nature. Therefore, to claim natural rights because of natural rights is to eschew the responsibilities God requires of us. Now, that is a thought. Mark Metz. You got me doing some thinking now.
Yeah, he is. What he said. Yeah,
natural rights. I think he said natural law possibly being Antichrist. Now, I guess what I would need to know is, does he mean natural law as in the human conception of natural law, or like natural law itself? So is it like the things that people are calling natural law, or is it the thing that actually is natural law that he's referring to?
Make yourself clear, Mark Metz. We don't have time for this nonsense.
Clarify, Mr. ISFP, which is something that I just learned. What's up, Caleb? CJ says more libertarian talk, huh? Yeah, that's funny. Okay, we'll give it another minute here to let people wander their way in.
Is anyone here from Boston? I've developed a new character today that it would really crush.
Is it the one that makes your microphone hum?
Is it humming?
It was, yeah.
It was when I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
So anytime this happens.
Yeah.
I wonder if can the fans hear it, or is it just you?
I think that the fans can hear it. They've commented on it before.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't hear it in the episodes. Okay. I don't watch them.
That would be nice if they did. It doesn't bother me. I just know that. Yeah.
Part of the problem is I don't listen to them. But like this is sort of partially what happens in the winter. Like there's like a hat involved and a beard, and with like a coat over it, and like the shit kicker Timbs that I have that I only wear when it gets cold. Okay, thanks, Aim. Got it. Okay, that's enough. It just has there's just an aesthetic that looks like just kind of more of a dirtbaggy version of myself. And so in the winter, it's kind of like track pants, and whatever else, and like a hat and glove. And so
wife beater with a gold chain.
Well, it's too cold for that, but you're there. Maybe, but like a coat over the wife beater. And so that character was Tony Methadone. And so, but the one that I made up today is Rob Hockey. Full name, Rob Burry Hockey. So Rob Hockey from fuck. Oh yeah, Rob Hockey from Halfway House. So it sounds like a Massachusetts town if you just pronounce it wrong. Yeah.
That's funny. I don't know.
Fucking from fucking Halfway House. It's just outside Felony mess. If you see Bailman, you've gone too far.
I don't think a lot of people know that you are from Boston originally, or Boston area.
I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
It's kind of crazy how well you've covered your accent. I don't know if that's been deliberate or if you just didn't have much one to begin with.
I did the impression today. Like I've been kind of like doing it today, and I can already hear that it is affecting my speaking voice.
It's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up in Boston. I wish I did. My family was there. We got exiled to the western part of the state, but like I spoke more like, you know, my mom with her accent. And I went to school and people couldn't kind of really understand what I was saying. So yeah, code switching, Matthew.
That's funny. I don't think, I mean, obviously I was born, I think I just have a very generic American accent. No. Can you please, if you're in this chat, please tell him he does not have a generic American accent. I have no idea what I sound like. I know that
this delusion
that my accent molds itself to whoever I'm around subconsciously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I was going to school in Canada, I had a very distinct Canadian accent for a number of years. And every once in a while it'll still come out. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, I hate how malleable I am too. I think it's maybe how humans are, you know, especially if you like have bounced around a little bit.
I'd be interested to have you do the C.S. Joseph test on the cognition test, the 4 sides of the mind thing.
I feel like that guy just wants to fuck me. Or everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Mark Metz says he's been binging so Mark just found out he's an ISFP and he's been binging ISFP videos for the last 2 days. He says, I think he hates me. So apparently, I guess he wants to hate fuck everybody, which kind of, given some of his videos, like he gets very aggressive.
You need to highlight this top comment right here, by the way, not to interrupt.
This one?
Matt sounds more Canadian than American to me. Someone who lives in Canada.
Okay, fair.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Suppose so, eh?
I don't go anywhere anymore, but like if I come back from Miami, I'm gonna catch endless shit unless I really make an effort to just not Miami poser it up, because it's gonna sneak in there.
You're gonna come back just like pure Cubano.
I'm just talking like a girl from Miami. Irregardless, okay? The beast is cocky.
That was way too seamless.
Yeah,
you just
sociopathic. Yeah, no, it's rough. It's rough.
Oh, that's really funny.
I can always do impressions of just like regular ass people, you know, from, you know, just that nobody knew except for me and, you know, 10 other people. And I think it's actually just that psychological like dysfunction, like whatever psychosis I have, it just lends itself to doing impressions. But it's probably
do they like just naturally come to you? Is it just kind of effortless, or do you practice them when you're alone?
I'm losing it. I could really just imp anybody, but I can't. It's going away like a little bit.
You're settling into you're picking a personality.
Yeah. Like I hope it's Jason Stapleton. I would be really great.
I hope it's Hispanic Jason Stapleton. El Rock Negro.
Oíste, chicos. Te aviso. Todos los días.
I wonder if anybody else is as entertained by this as we are. I mean, if we did the show that we talk about doing, I think our follower count would just, it would be amazing.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe it would change, and it would just be a different kind of follower.
I almost wish that we had a really cool conversation with the Warlords, which is members
Yes.
of our supporting listeners group, the highest tier, I believe, the supporting listeners group. And I almost wish that at least part of it didn't happen because, I don't ever anticipate any kind of you don't get any feedback, doing the show. There's no audience. And so I just thought, okay, I say annoying stuff sometimes, and that makes people like Matt more. But I said a couple things on that phone call, and people laughed, and that wasn't. I'm sorry in advance, guys, but you can't let me think that you think I'm funny. I'm like the little kid who comes down during the dinner party that his parents are having during Christmas time and does fucking show tunes or some shit like that. If people start clapping as opposed to just shoot him with a squirt gun, tell him to get his ass upstairs, that's how it needs to be handled. I can't get positive adoration for this nonsense.
Or it'll never stop.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna get
escalating.
Restraining order from Charlemagne pretty soon, probably.
Your mom says that you can do all of your high school teachers, as opposed to when you were in high school, you could not do all of your high school teachers.
Oh, impressions. Oh, okay. What? Yeah. No, I can. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Stephen just spent a long time thinking about one person in particular, I think. I don't know who it was, but there's just one person that you were just like, oh yeah.
There's the one.
Ko says, do you think that Revelations refers to a specific period in time, or could it be considered to be something that happens over and over, like cyclical? There's an Antichrist question. Yeah, so that's something that we're going to get into today. As soon as we do a little bit of housekeeping, we've been going for a little bit here, so we can get started.
Sure.
So number one, you mentioned the supporting listeners group. So you can go to subscribestar.com and subscribestar.com/kingpilled, and you can join the supporting listeners group. There's 3 different membership tiers there. And with the top tier, the warlords, the bottom tier is the peasants. So if you want to self-identify as such, we won't hold it against you. We actually welcome
give us money just to have us make fun of you in front of other people, which is psychotic. But there is a psychology out there for that. Yes, then you can join us at the peasant level.
Yeah, and we would be delighted to have you. We've got a group of people who are at the warlords level, the top level, and so one of the perks for that is doing a Zoom call with Stephen and I and whatever unannounced special guests we show up with. So we did that on Tuesday night, and let me tell you, it was so good that I was out for the entire next day with a migraine. That's how much fun I had. But no, we talked. We ended up talking. I was like, I don't know how long this is. I don't know if it's gonna go off well. I don't know what's gonna happen here. So I'd budgeted an hour and a half, and I think we ended up going for 2.5 hours. It was just 2.5 hours with a handful of us just there, just talking about everything, just everything under the sun. We covered politics, religion, philosophy, metaphysics, various different religions. We even talked some gossip. Yeah. We had a really, really interesting conversation. It was a lot of fun. And I actually, when I had to cut it off because I had to go for my family, and I cut it off at about 2.5 hours. And I felt like we would have gone for at least another 2 hours. Yeah. There was some good conversation going. So we got a bunch of really good book recommendations out of it. So we started another channel on the Discord there for a book club, and I need to get caught up on all my notifications. I saw them going by yesterday as I was wasting away in bed. They started a book club, and they're going to start doing, I think that's reading 3 books a month or something. So I'm definitely going to get in on that because I need to increase my knowledge intake. And one of the first books that I'm really excited to read is, I just forgot the name of it. It's Matthew Peugeot, Jonathan Peugeot's brother. I want to say it was The Language of Creation.
Someone commented, yes. Does that say Darley? What in the Dominican Republic? Does it say Darley?
What are you talking about?
Someone commented. It said their name's Darley.
Oh yeah.
Where are you from, man?
Darley Senecal Baptiste.
Baptiste. Dang.
Yeah, they liked your Spanish. Oh, Amy wanted me to say what's on the front of my hat. I'm not embarrassed to represent, even when it's not the best year to do that. Anyways, so the book that the book that I'm really excited to start on is The Language of Creation: Cosmic Symbolism in Genesis by Matthew Pajot. Cooper Brooks was just every single conversation kept coming back to that. And one of the most interesting things is he just said that I saw Cooper said something in the chat about how he started getting really, really vivid dreams after reading that book. And so I'm very interested in that. Speaking of vivid dreams, that's a segue into our ad.
The Nomad Network. Oh.
That's no. Your relationship to Jason is not part of the Nomad.
I'm kidding. We have a sponsor?
We have a sponsor. So
cool.
So this show is surprisingly sponsored by multiple organizations now. But our very, very first sponsor, they will always be very close to our hearts, is Paloma Verde CBD. Carlos and Vanessa Abelar. It's a true family-owned small business. They have one little girl, and they just had another one show up, and she's doing great. They're very, very good people. I got to visit them when I was down in San Antonio, and so we're glad that they support us. What's that?
Dos niños. Sorry.
You weren't lying.
His Hispanic outreach, Jason Stapleton, is probably going to make an appearance or two. Don't compliment my Spanish, buddy.
So they're very good people, and they're a small business, which is a great thing for this show especially. But it's not just that; they actually have a really, really fantastic product. So their CBD is second to none. My favorite is the strawberry lemonade gummies that are delicious, and they actually helped yesterday with the migraine.
Ay, mi cabeza, coño.
I like how you're starting to get like the kind of like the really steely look with like your brow kind of furrowed the way that he does. Like your whole body is just starting to ooze.
That's because I'm thinking of him.
Your body oozes every time, huh?
Yep.
Anyways, I love we're doing this right in the middle of an ad. So yeah, they got a bunch of great stuff. It's all the CBD stuff you could imagine, and they've got good stuff for dogs too. And we've thought about getting it for our dog, but we don't love them that much. So PalomaVerdeCBD.com. Use promo code KING, gets you 25% off any order over $75. It's very, very worthwhile. Get yourself some quality CBD products. So then
Los Peritos.
Los what?
Los Peritos.
Also, you heard us talk about the Nomad Network. It's Steven, tell us about the Nomad Network. What's your favorite thing about it?
My favorite thing about it is, my favorite thing about it, I'm probably going to save for a more intimate discussion, which is going to be coming soon, fans. But I just have to say that you can go back and if I planned this ahead of time, I would have waited until if Matthew and I did any show prep, we would have said, hey, start talking about the old episodes that you're putting up, like in podcast form, because it would make him put the old episodes up in podcast form also. But if you listen to those episodes, I think that you will hear a very different Uncle Stevie Boy than the one that you've come to know and love more recently. And a major reason that my sort of outlook on life and mood overall has improved is directly because of the Nomad Network and its people. And I don't know how many people listen to this show that are not in the Nomad Network. I can't imagine it's very many. But just in case I'm wrong, why don't you go and head on over there? Because my life was sort of somewhere like dumpster level, I would say. So if your life is even dumpster level, it could be higher. I can only imagine what it would do if you're starting from a little bit of a better place. But Matthew has all the pertinent information for joining that. But I don't know anything about any. I don't know nothing about no fancy sponsorship. I'll tell you that. I say the same thing with or without it. Jason Stapleton is so savvy. There could be a way that we end up needing to pay him for doing this. So I'm going to say the same thing regardless. I'm operating under the assumption that I may get some sort of, like just like a self-addressed envelope for Stapleton and like a check, that I have to write up. But yeah, I would say the same thing regardless.
He actually Steven started basically doing an ad for the Nomad Network the other day without realizing that I was literally at that point just about to segue into doing an ad for the Nomad Network. He didn't even know we were doing ads for it yet. So
I had no idea.
It's very definitely that was very heartfelt, Steven. That was delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nomad Network, it's a great place. It's a very positive, uplifting social media platform for liberty-minded entrepreneurs. And we say this time and time again, entrepreneur is not some special category for just a certain little sliver of people in the world. Every single person is an entrepreneur. It's just that most people are selling one product, their labor, and they're selling it to a single client, which makes them very unstable, and it means that they are controlled by their client. So if you start thinking this way and you think of yourself as an entrepreneur with every single thing that you do, like the sleep that you get is one of the inputs and one of the costs of your company. Every single thing that you do is part of your company as an entrepreneur. And ideally you want to have as stable of a client base as possible, which means you need to have both rare specialized skills and a large network of people from whom to draw support and to draw clients. So both when you put both of those things together, you get a social media platform that is designed to bring that type of person together to create a community of people united around those ideas. So if you'd like to join, you can join for free. www.nomadnetwork.app/king. That's www.nomadnetwork.app/king. That'll show that we're the ones that sent you. We got a whole bunch of different people that are all advertising it right now. So I have a feeling, I'm positive that we're not going to come anywhere close to the top numbers there, because there's some relatively large shows that are advertising it. But we can definitely try to swing above our weight class. So go over and join. That'd be great. And then, did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, Nick Blanchard says, is concerned that he may have missed the banter portion of the episode. Buddy, today I got some good news for you. But yeah, the Nomad Network, and again, this is a topic that that I bring up anyway, and I was looking to bring up more with or without our little thing. But this is fun. We can kind of make a little bit of a competition. I don't know who these other bitch shows are that are trying to build a community, but we are going to build community in a more communal, better way, coming from King Build. But if you hang out in the Nomad,
ours is going to be more community.
That's right. So fuck everyone else. If you hang out, you come from Twitter or Facebook, and you go just kind of spend some time on the Nomad Network. It's so refreshing. That's the first thing that I noticed. It just felt like, it feels like when I used to live in Florida, you would just walk out after the sun went down, and the temperature was just perfect. The humidity was perfect. It felt like just like the ideal environment for a human being, for the human body. That's kind of what the Nomad Network feels like for the present day. If you are somebody who is coming to the realization that whether you know it or not, you're an entrepreneur, it's the right place for you. It reminds me, when you were just talking about, Matthew, reminds me of when I was doing a lot of fight stuff, for the first time in my life, in jiu-jitsu and boxing and stuff became the reason that I showered, the reason that I ate a certain way, the reason that I went to bed and clipped my nails, and that's a fun way to look at something, because whatever you choose to look at that way for your life, I mean, that's sort of the direction that you're going to go. It's like throwing your head in a particular direction, and your body's going to follow. So it may as well be entrepreneurship.
That's a good analogy. Throwing your head in that direction, your body follows through. There's a degree to which LARPing is the real thing. Like everything is LARPing. Everything starts out as LARPing. Like when you're a baby and you're learning how to walk, and you look up and you see your parents walking. This is happening with Eastwood right now. You start trying to mimic the steps that they're taking. You don't know what you're doing, but you're just LARPing as the person that you see. And eventually, as you do that, you start figuring out how it works, and just starts to become natural, and you develop muscle memory. So Jim here from Clockwork Industries, he said, absolutely, Matt. Literally owning a business has forced me to invest in my health, sleep, energy, etc., vitamins, exercise, good sleep, etc.
And
That's
a great video editor.
yeah, yeah. There's another ad. um, but yeah, once you start looking at your entire life as you're running a business, like your body, your person is a business. It's literally a brand. You can even do this legally. You can legally make yourself a brand, a legal brand. And there's interesting financial things you can do with that, but I don't know what I'm talking about with that. So
But Jason does, and he is in the Nomad Network.
yeah, he does. And I'm sure, and there's lots of other people. They got lawyers in there.
Yeah. Someone knows. And by the way, those people are all anxious to help. Anxious to help. Not willing, anxious.
Yes. Everyone there realizes, and we're actually Jason's trying to figure out how to actually formalize this into an actual like technological community. But everyone there realizes that the more that they invest in the value of the community, the more valuable the community gets to the people who are investing in it. So there's a symbiotic relationship there that can turn into a really positive feedback loop. So yeah, there's the quote everybody knows is that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. That's because we are naturally mimetic beings. We mimic what's around us. With the culture that you put yourself into, this starts to get into the conversation today. The culture that you put yourself into will become what you are. You are what you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with the Nomad Network.
That's why I don't say L's right when I come home from Miami. It's the same thing. Yeah, and you know, like what's interesting is, and this is like this is not the ad anymore. The ad's over, so I can just not feel this this uncomfortable thing. It's like all right, I'm gonna skip that metaphor, but it would feel like it would be like if my mom like paid me to like say something like good about her or something like that, almost in many ways.
What he's saying is Jason is his daddy.
That's right. That's exactly what I'm saying. So wealth, power, and influence has kind of become like this like pathway. You know, when people talk about what to do, or you know, what about political action? What about the wealth? It's become like the WPI, you know, method or path or whatever. What's interesting is you can actually kind of go. It doesn't take long. You can go experience it. You know, like you can, okay. Just as you can join a political party or a segment of a local political party, and you can actually kind of see what happens or doesn't happen, and it can give some perspective when people are talking about different pathways and what to do and all that stuff. You can even easier go into, join the Nomad Network, spend some time there, and you can get a feel very quickly for where this idea of like, oh yeah, we need to like kind of stick together and exchange skills and support one another, people. And that sounds a certain way, and your brain knows what those words mean when you hear them. It's like, okay, that seems like a good idea. But then you go there and it's like actually people doing that. And it just puts a whole other kind of like appreciation on it.
What's been your experience with your own little project over the last, how long have you been doing it? 6 weeks? 2 months?
Yeah. I spoke with someone from the Nomad Network who was interested in acquiring my services, but even like seemed more interested in helping me find other people to acquire my services, to the point where I was like I didn't know what was happening. It's just like it was one of the more helpful things that I've experienced in my life. If I could like make a list, I don't know if I could make a list of 4 other things to make a top 5, of things that were that helpful. I think, my buddy saw me walking around on my hands in my college dorm room and said, "Hey, you should try jujitsu. You'd probably be good at it." That was major. It starts to dwindle from there, and and like this is
So
the
these
other
are
thing.
like major life turning points.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know what I was gonna do, and so this person just happened. It feels like what it felt like was if someone was really stressing out for whatever reason about something, in the way of like dealing with like a situation in Adobe Premiere, where I was like, "Oh yeah, you just got to kind of fucking nest the clips and then do this and then do that." No biggie, happy to help. This person did it, except with like how to sustain my existence. Some people, it's just like different skill sets that people have. Some people can edit videos. Some people know how money and business works. It's the luck of the fucking draw. So, but there's so many people in there, and I can tell from dealing with the other people in there, they all have the same inclination to want to help where they can. And there's a good knowledge base in there. Coming up on 1,500 people, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And we just launched it. I don't know, what month is it? October. I think we launched it in August, maybe something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been really cool seeing the energy build and grow around it. Watching it. When if you've never built something, this is why everyone needs to build something. You have to build something, because there's something about the experience of creating something. Like, imagine you created a person and you're sitting there looking at the person, waiting for it to take its first breaths and stand up and start walking. And there's that tension where you're just sitting there. You're like, I put all this time and effort and energy into it, and now here we go. It's go time, and you're waiting for it to take off, to start showing life. And when it doesn't, it's agonizing. It's just so painful. It's one of the most painful things ever, just waiting for that thing that you built to actually come to life and start working. But once it does, you start seeing the little baby steps where it's starting to go, and then it starts accelerating. And we're right in the middle of that acceleration curve, watching it take off and watching the energy build around it. So it's very, for lack of a better word, it's very empowering. And I think, and from hearing testimonials like yours and Jim's and other people's, it seems like that's not just those of us who built it sitting there waiting for it to grow. It's everybody who's participating in it is having that same experience.
Yeah. More on that coming soon, by the way.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So just what your little appetite. But yeah, I would say it's like, Jesus, if you listen to this show, I would say that there's about zero reason not to be involved with it. And this is like when we were talking about kind of a show direction, by the way. And again, this is not the ad. Like we acknowledged that this was going to be a fairly large portion, chunk of the show that we would be revisiting. So I imagine that there's going to be a lot of time where we're, delving into the spiritual, and arguing about politics and current events and all this stuff. But like this was going to be one of the themes that we were going to be revisiting, because this is definitely, if you're kind of like looking at the different, we'll say archetypes just for fun, because I want to make Tho Bishop an archetype, but you're talking about like the political action side. You have Tho Bishop desperately trying to pry, the hands off of your neck, so that you can get something done. And then kind of old Jace is going to try to show you how to get or introduce you some people that you can get some things done with, or, advise you how to get some things done on your own. And so like this was going to definitely be woven into the show direction anyway.
I had this image a couple years ago the wealth, power, and influence show as the direction was changing. I had this image of, as I was starting to recognize the necessity of having wealth, power, and influence to really redirect the culture. Because it's kind of like this, you're like, okay, well, how do we change politics? Okay, well, to change politics, we have to change the culture. Okay, well, how do we change the culture? To change the culture, you have to change the people. Well, how do you change the people? You go down this line, you're going through this regress, trying to get to the starting point. And for me, that was how I basically just ran into God. I it was inevitable. It had to get back to that point. But um I just forgot what I was saying. Um
Well, it doesn't
oh
matter.
oh so
Okay,
so
never mind.
the vision that I had of was I realized that that the people that change the world are not the politicians. They're the people who are buying the politicians. They're the people who are paying the politicians to say this and say that. It's the people who own the media companies. It's the people who are populating evening television. The institutions that control people's minds, those are the things that are actually directing everything else. So that's when it occurred to me that the future of the liberty movement was business, education, and entertainment. And then education and entertainment, the latter two, are subsets of the first one. So it's all business. All of this all comes down to business. And it was from there that I had the realization that everyone is a business. Everyone is an entrepreneur. Corporation, it's a body of people. So it's like it's taking a bunch of people and putting their sovereignty into one thing and making one person that represents all of them. That's all that these like political movements and businesses and all these are all just different variants of the same type of organism, a group of people. So I realized to really start moving the needle, you need people selling the libertarian message who are famous stand-up comedians and famous actors and musicians and creating compelling movies and and operating major media companies. And that last one is basically the only one where that has really happened. And so then I'm like, oh, well, why is that? Why is it that libertarian comedians don't take off the way that non-libertarian comedians do? Why is it that libertarian movies don't get into the public mind and get talked about the way that other movies do? It's because popular culture is bottlenecked, and there are people who determine who gets through that bottleneck. And what do those people have? They have money. So it was this chain of reasoning that led me to realizing that if anything like this was ever going to happen, it was going to be because of something like the Nomad Network, where you get a bunch of for lack of a better term, a bunch of winners. The way Jason talks about, he says, be better and win. Just win. Winners win.
It's the
There's going to
attitude.
be a group of people like that. What?
It's that you can tell the attitude. Like I don't. Yeah, because like the winner thing. So you don't like I'm broke. You know what I mean? But like for most of my existence have had something that's very like tenacious in me about making things happen. And it sort of like disappeared or like died a little bit. And I needed to be around people that I saw were getting after it in order to sort of like wake it back up. But yeah, you don't need, believe me, you don't need a shit ton of money or anything like that to be in the Nomad Network. If Jason knew what was not in my bank account, he would probably kick me out. I'm kidding. I don't know, but you can join for free. But anyway, but yeah, it's the attitude, that winner thing. Like it's not, I don't know what because everyone, that's such a weighted word. I think it comes down to just your outlook on life and making things happen. And I saw someone commented that they need to build something. It's a very like valuable experience just to even if you don't build something like it's great to start a business, but basically if you put the challenge to yourself to make your phone ring about something. So like even if it's like I would say like a decent substitute would be like if you were going to try to like sell something, like if you just had something you weren't using anymore and it was like a medium dollar item, um, just trying to get your phone to ring and just like advertising it, and then you kind of take it to the next level with like a service or a business. If you can do like a one-off class in something, and like you just put the challenge that you're trying to like make that class or whatever be a success. um, there's just something about the experience of putting a bunch of effort into something with no guarantee of its efficacy, in like pressing done here and there because it has to be a whole bunch of different places, and then just kind of like having your phone and just kind of just like looking to see what the risk, and just having nothing fucking happen, you know. And then the feeling of like when that phone call comes through, you know, like all those things, like I don't know that can be translated or learned. I think it's just a good exercise to go through, you know. And it teaches you so much for whatever it is that you're trying to do. That's why like everyone should have like some time in sales.
Yeah.
You know, if just fucking sell something, you know.
That the experience of being forced to like confront someone face to face and like initiate the conversation and overcome objections and emotionally align and do that whole process, constantly running the risk of having the person like flip you a double bird and walk away, or just say no. Even just if the person just says no, that feeling, you have to get through it. Because at first, every single fiber of your being will be saying, get me out, don't do this, I don't want this, no, 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 red alert, red alert, red alert, red alert. Because you're hardwired, like evolutionarily, you're hardwired to not want to be rejected by other people. Because if you're rejected by the tribe, you starve to death. That was like, to the tribal mind, that was the worst case scenario. So you're wired to want to be accepted by the tribe. So to put yourself at social risk like that, people will kind of like poo-poo it, but you're dealing with some really deep evolutionary wiring when you confront that. So like, it doesn't matter what your actual pastime is. Selling, making yourself go and experience selling is probably one of the best skills that you could ever develop. Anyways, Mark Metz says, hey. All right, man, the same page thing is getting weird. My Substack piece today was about being a culture builder as opposed to a culture warrior. Mark Metz is a good person to be on the same page with. I'll just say that. He's a good dude. Okay, so this is going, we're having a great conversation. So these ads are taking a really long time to get through, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. That wasn't an ad. That was not an ad. That's right.
Unless it benefits us somehow, in which case, Jason, it was an ad.
It was an ad, and the ad ended, and then we had some conversation, and now we're going to do another ad. That's right. What it was. Okay, so this is what the Mises GOP action pack is about. From their About Us on their website, it says Mises GOP Action Pack is a network of pro-growth, state and local most government Americans who share in the belief that prosperity and opportunity come from economic freedom. We believe in using innovative local government solutions and partnering with state level and federal level representatives to spread liberty, to foster economic growth, and to maximize private economic expansion. We believe our key innovation, the anti-tax, which leverages sovereign wealth funds and the competitiveness of state and local governments to provide full-scale state services tax-free by professionally investing local government reserve funds into qualified investment-grade assets and securities, is the future of all taxation, particularly for pro-business statesmen. We want to work to elect visionary Republican leaders at the state and local levels to make our vision a reality. We aren't abolishing taxation, we're evolving it. The future is now. So this is it might seem kind of funny that with the angle that we typically take here, that we would actually be, would have as a sponsor a political PAC. But this is because this one's different. Ours is an exception. It genuinely is an exception because this is an organization that's focused on an actual genuine piece of innovation that is created, that is put together with the outcome in mind and actually achievable, because it takes advantage of the existing system and harasses its existing energies to work in a positive direction for real people. So, as Andrew, Popular Liberty, the founder of the PAC, as he says, this is about bringing real wealth, power, and influence to normal everyday Americans who might not normally have access to it, because by genuinely cutting their taxes while still investing in their local community, they get the best of both worlds. And it's hardwired to take advantage of a runaway stock market as well. So there's a lot of really positive aspects to it. If you want to know more about the anti-tax, just go listen to Popular Liberty's YouTube channel, where he breaks it down in depth, and he's had multiple different conversations with people where he's explained it to them as well. So he says, I think it enhances the king pilled message and legitimizes it, and I think so too. So the link to donate is a little long, so I'll just say it's in the show notes, or it's in the description of this video. Just go down there and click it. It says donate to the GOP Mises Caucus. You can make a donation. Andrew asks that if you are going to make a significant donation, he would prefer that you break it up over 12 equal payments rather than giving it all up front, just because it helps him with budgeting and it helps him plan and work out the specific moves that they're going to make. So I know that Buck Johnson is the first Mayor Buck. Fireman Buck is going to become Mayor Buck in Lockhart, Texas, and that's one of the first politicians that the Mises GOP is going to be supporting. So go over there and donate to them, help them actually bring this vision to life, and to support candidates like Fireman Buck. All right. That is all
the show. Thank you, everybody. It was a great time had by all. Nicholas, I think you got your share of banter, buddy.
Andrew says, pushback we get is we only care about ourselves. This is how we prove that we mean what we say about becoming natural elites. So I have a few different kind of thoughts that I've had banging around my head, and a few different articles and tweets and stuff that I've seen this morning that I'm going to try to blend into a coherent conversation. Yesterday, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, in a chat that we populate, Rachel, had an interesting, I think actually this might have been 2 days ago. She had a really interesting point. She said that I can't remember exactly how she phrased it, but it was basically, if you want to prevent kings from arising within your society, then you will betatize all of the boys. So betatizing the boys prevents the rise of kings. And part of the message of this show is that kinghood and fatherhood are the same thing, that kinghood should be thought of as fatherhood. And it's it's like an extrapolation of it. The king is the father of his tribe, of his region. And as the father of it, he's the one who takes responsibility for the well-being of the people. They're his responsibility. That's what it means to be in a position of authority. It means that you are the one with responsibility. So if things go to shit, that's on you, and everyone knows it's on you. That's the role of a king, as we talk about it here.
That's a strange name. I've never heard that.
What?
Like a dude named Rachel?
What?
It's a dude named Rachel?
No. A girl named Rachel. Did I say a dude?
Oh, we were just talking about what she said. I presumed it's a girl? Oh. And I can...
Well, the men are talking.
Yeah.
See, when you start doing something, I never know if it's a bit or if you're actually serious. So I have to try to figure out how to...
A funny bit, yeah.
I have to try to figure out how to navigate this so I don't look like an idiot on one side or the other, and I invariably fail. What?
I just want to do some alpha shit. I need her barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, not opining on culture.
I think she'd rather be too.
Yeah.
Speaking of barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, no, this isn't a baby announcement. No. Amy is developing a little bit of fame within Liberty Twitter. She got because of Amy. Pete Quinones has been in a like a 24-hour fight with people from the Free State Project.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Did she start and then just like did she stay in the fray or what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She was in there. She was in there swinging haymakers. Yeah. Yeah.
With the baby.
Yeah. She's like baby in one hand. Boom, boom, boom. She got some doofy lolbert who we said something about. I'd replied to Clint on Liberty Lockdown about how we're looking at moving to Texas and to escape Southern California and move to Texas, like for the sake of our liberty. And this doofy lolbert named Ian Freeman replied to Amy's reply to me saying something about like, well, just don't get caught with an ounce of weed. And then she was like, how is that possibly a consideration when we're talking about escaping like would be medical apartheid to a state that is not going to be that way to that extent, at least? Like, how would the status of weed possibly factor into your consideration? So she replied to that and said something to that effect.
Do you think that person has ever said the phrase "sex work is real work"?
Oh, 100%.
Said that quite a bit.
Probably tattooed right on his wispy little bicep. So of course she was like, and he replied, and he was something about like strip clubs, like a mother's biggest concern is weed laws and strippers.
Yeah.
And then he has this like completely autistic demeanor that's just like, I'm just a very peaceful guy who just wants everybody to be peaceful and happy. I don't want anybody to ever have anything mean against them because I am a libertarian and I live my values. And I just couldn't help but think about what Rachel said about betatizing men to prevent the rise of kings. That right there, that is the perfect example of it. I cut you off.
Oh, no, I just an annoying personality combination. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mine with his, yeah.
No.
Two annoying ones. Oh.
His just that kind of autistic, but yeah, just that amalgamation of terrible right there. Yeah. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them like that.
Yeah. They tend to have, so here's an interesting thing. How do, if you believe in the idea of like survival of the fittest, then how is it that the most powerful institutions in the world are all controlled by like wimpy little twerps? We'll put it that way. I probably get in trouble for saying what I was gonna say.
Probably.
But doesn't that, like, why is it that the world is not dominated by dominant men?
Did I go on my? I have a couple of just sort of weird out there things that I really like harp on privately.
Go for it.
But not publicly. Did I do the monogamy one publicly? No. Okay. I'd like to preface this with I'm not one of these like guys who's just like, yeah, monogamy is unnatural, man, to like try to, whatever. That's not me. But
I know where this is going.
there is a consequence, to just kind of allowing, I don't know who this guy is, but he potentially could get a wife, right? And one of the main reasons that he could get a wife and breed and stuff is thanks, in air quotes, to monogamy, as opposed to, all right, we'll say Buck's a married man. So Buck's twin brother, fuck. Fuck Johnson. Dude, you think that guy's getting a wife with fuck Johnson on the loose? Probably not. In fact, the rules of the game could just switch overnight, where it's just like, oh yeah, we're not doing the monogamy thing anymore. That dude's wife is like, yeah, I'm gonna get me some fuck Johnson, thank you. And it's just like all these people with their bullshit, talking. You can imagine someone talking to your lovely bride about, weed and strip clubs, and it's just like, do you understand that you exist because my father didn't decapitate your father? Do you get that? It's just, we're playing by these fucked up rules. And that's like that's really what the concept of where the concept of force should start, is that you exist because we decided to be like civilized. But that doesn't mean that you get to have you don't get to talk. You exist because fuck Johnson let you exist. I don't know if anyone kind of like follows what I'm saying, but like I'm not saying that that's the way that it should be. I'm not saying that fuck Johnson should just like wreck shop and just impregnate everybody. I don't know that leads to the kind of society that we want. But there should be like a thank you. There should be some kind of mutual understanding among dudes, in air quotes, of that caliber, that like, okay, I probably shouldn't be here if I'm like looking around. You know what I mean? I like very like quasi runt of the litter kind of a thing, and it's just like, you should sort of be happy that we're in a society that allows runts to exist. It doesn't mean you're not entitled to anything. In fact,
it's like I let you get pussy, you owe me respect. It's like that kind of dynamic.
Quiet. You owe me not saying ridiculous shit to my wife. You know what I mean? It's like in the meta, like, it's not a metaphor, but like the comparison that I want to make, I can't make on YouTube.
Can you hint at it?
Yeah, there's dynamics that already exist in our world that people would not probably acknowledge explicitly, but everyone kind of knows the deal. They were acknowledged more explicitly maybe in like the 40s and 50s.
Are we talking like Carlisle?
No, not 1850s. They were acknowledged in the Honeymooners.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm picking it up now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is similar to the to branch off a little bit. This is similar to the Jordan Peterson enforced monogamy thing, which was egregiously taken out of context. But his comment was basically that human beings are not naturally, like biologically, monogamous. They have a natural biological instinct. I should say it's not natural necessarily. It's like carnal, maybe. I don't know. Instinct toward the highest value men get the most women, and they get the highest value women. And there winds up a natural effect where a lot of the low value men are competing for very few women. And so a lot of the low value men wind up never being able to satisfy the biological urge to reproduce. And for that reason, they become emotionally and hormonally unstable, and they threaten the stability of the tribe. Mm-hmm. So monogamy is a technology that mitigates that problem. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily eliminate it, but it mitigates it.
And what we're mitigate it?
What?
Just drowning them in a street puddle. And what I'm saying is that, like, there's a lot of people that could drown people in street puddles, and they don't. And as a you're welcome, people should comport themselves accordingly. That's all. I don't know. Like, it just it's just like, it's all force. It's all force. Because and I'm not like atheist guy either. I'm not annoying atheist guy, but I'm saying annoying atheist. And we're chimps when it comes down to it. We're very close to chimps. We have a lot of chimp impulses and stuff like that. So it's like, what's like the ultimate way of determining like blah blah blah, status? if it comes down to it, and someone's saying someone says dumb shit level to your wife, like dumb shit level things here to your wife. Okay, well, what happens if it's here? What about here? At some point there's a threshold where it's like, okay, it's chimp time, right? And so it's just, wherever we are in human nature, we decided where like chimp time is okay. And that's what like people will argue about with like the non-aggression principle to a certain extent. I know it's more complicated than that and more annoying and autistic than that or whatever. But if you're like simplifying it, that's kind of what it is.
Right.
So
right.
It's like we could like there's a way of just like living. We could formalize a non-violent society with some sort of like annual competition. Maybe that's what the Olympics were for, It's like that.
Yeah.
But like there's a way, you can have this sort of but it's like there's going to be rules, and guess who gets to decide the rules?
Well, there's a bunch of different interesting directions you can take this because, so like to address the nap real quick, you have the nap is like this principle. The libertarians are like, oh, this is fantastic. This is great. If we could just get everybody to abide by it, which is like, oh, cool, great. Yeah. If everybody abided by it, then that would be great. Mm-hmm. The problem is that everybody does not and will not. Mm-hmm. The only way that you could get a principle like that to be applicable to everybody is if you mandated it from the top down by people who can enforce it. That's the only way that you ever actually make the nap enforceable. So it's not satisfactory for a fundamental, general, universal principle because it doesn't work. People do not adapt to it because they don't want to. People behave their incentives, and they have incentives to not adapt to the nap. So the question is then, do you abandon the nap, or do you try to engineer the conditions whereby people are incentivized to follow the nap? That's for each person to decide for themselves. So what you get with this dynamic where you have the alpha men, like if you say at the beginning of a society, and it starts off with this distribution where you get like an 80-20 rule with the distribution of women to men, where 20% of the men get 80% of the women, and the 80% of men have 20% of women. What I'm thinking of here is, I think it was it Pareto or was it Mosca who had the lions and the foxes? I can't remember which Machiavellian.
Someone
I can't remember which
seconds.
Machiavellian it was.
I'm
going to look it up.
My fucking hat. If someone doesn't beat in the chat, someone's going to beat you before you can look it up. I guarantee you. So someone's is writing there. Bam. There you go.
Pareto. Yeah. Okay. So Pareto describes the lions versus the foxes, and instead of just trying to kind of bullshit my way through it, I'm going to read just a quick breakdown of the two. The two types of elites.
Question right here: is Steve advocating for the purge? No, I'm advocating for people to comport themselves as if they know that the purge is a thing that could happen, and they know damn well what would happen if it did.
There are artificial means holding back the purge.
There's something to be said about and I don't really know sort of if Rachel expounded upon it, but it's really good for people, and I suppose men, to be involved in something where there's a clear hierarchy. It teaches you a lot, and you can be somebody who does not want to be smashed into the ground and is a free spirit and all that stuff, and still have a certain understanding of authority, and dare I say respect. And respect is one of those loaded words that everyone has associations with, but it's just okay, if you say that you don't respect authority, that is more difficult to say after you've had to fight somebody. You know what I mean? You cannot like them and just okay, I don't know, if you have to fight fucking Lennox Lewis or whatever, it's just are you going to say that you don't respect him? Because that'd be dumb, because you're going to fucking die. You mean you're to die regardless, but you know what I mean? It's just your understanding of what that means changes in a way that helps you live better.
I was trying to find I can't find my...
You're telling me I didn't stall long enough, Matthew?
No, you're good. You're good. I've lost the ability to screen share. I don't know where the thing went. I'll just read it. Related to what you were saying, friend of the show, LB Muniz, had a a very enlightening poll that he put up on Twitter. He said it has two different options, and the prompt is: becoming an authority is either 1, compatible with the nap, or 2, antithetical to liberty. And this I got to hand it to you, man. This is a good poll. The results are fascinating. So again, would you say would you say is more true? Becoming an authority is compatible with the nap, or becoming an authority is antithetical to liberty? 33.8% of people who have responded have said that becoming an authority is antithetical to liberty. This is people who have been subjected to the democracy mind poison that you were talking about in the chat. That, like, becoming an authority on the saxophone is antithetical to liberty. Becoming an authority in your own home is antithetical to liberty. Becoming an authority in your neighborhood is antithetical to liberty. All these things, that's complete nonsense. But people being libertarians, have associated authority with bad. So ultimately, a movement or an ideology predicated on being anti-tyranny is really subconsciously anti-authority. And there's a term for anti-authority. It's called a child. Being anti-authority is juvenile. This is children learn to respect authorities because that's how the society functions. Your society does not function if you don't have hierarchies of authority. That poll, just, I saw that this morning and my jaw dropped. This should be 100%, but it illustrates it illustrates exactly what we've been talking about. So I found the thing with Pareto. So, based on or drawing on his Italian predecessor Machiavelli, Pareto identified 2 types of elite rulers. The first, whom he called foxes, are those who dominate mainly through combinazioni, or combination. Deceit, cunning, manipulation, and co-optation. So by combination, it's like combining different motives and combining different, like pretending to be one thing but actually being the other thing. So those are the foxes. So they tend to be more devious. I'm not going to say that word. Their rule is characterized by decentralization, plurality, and skepticism, and they are uneasy with the use of force. This is the existing regime, is the absolute paramount example of a fox regime. It's all a bunch of lawyers who are a bunch of wispy little twerps who are uncomfortable with the explicit use of force. So there's all these different layers put in between the people who are actually wielding the force and the people who are the ones actually on the ground using it.
And they have no option except other than to be surreptitious.
Yes. Yeah. So then the other kind are the lions, which are more conservative. They emphasize unity, homogeneity, established ways, the established faith, and rule through small, centralized, and hierarchical bureaucracies. And they are far more at ease with the use of force than the devious foxes. History is the slow swing of the pendulum from one type of elite to the other, from foxes to lions and back again. So what we're in right now is a swing from foxes back into lions. And this isn't foxes bad, lions good, or vice versa. You can have good lions and bad lions. You can have good foxes and bad foxes.
But certainly foxes, lions, lions.
I think that foxes probably tend overwhelmingly to be more evil because there's deception and two-facedness built into it. But I mean, sometimes it's necessary to have a public face and then have a private. Like, sometimes that's just going to be part of the job. So I think ultimately that foxes are going
read our
to
most recent YouTube comment. Actually,
foxes are incentivized to read how to win friends and influence people. Lions substantially less so.
Oh no, I meant the comment on our most recent video about that we were public and.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So what's interesting here is that in order to rule people without the use of force, Well, you can't rule people without the use of force. You can rule people without the explicit use of force, which would be a fox thing. The lion would be more like, you get in the way, we're going to squish you. Like that was Trump's mentality. Trump was very much a lion. So with and actually, I think that Biden's instincts are actually much more lion-like as well, which would fit the turning of the times. But he's surrounded by foxes.
Yeah, he is.
What's interesting, Miss Peppermint Patty, the press secretary. That's Stevie's beat, huh?
Hell yeah.
What's interesting to me is that if you are uncomfortable with the use of force, then you have to develop technology to use force for you, or to multiply the force that you use, because you're not comfortable yourself getting the force to that level. So you have to use a piece of technology to do it for you. So foxes are likely to innovate in technology. That would make sense to me. And if you, the earlier thing we were talking about, where you have the alpha chads who get all the girls, and then the wieners are off in the corner not getting any. Those guys off in the corner are much more likely to be foxes, and they're the stereotype of the nerd. The nerd that's
get me started. Those guys, god damn it, yeah. See, this is where I could connect these. Oh god, I hate those guys. Oh,
these are your favorite guys in the world.
I've never cheated. I've never cheated on my girlfriend. Okay, you've never had the option. Good, great end result. You've never had. And the second that you get the second that they get the option, they'll just have a second family. You know,
they're like the guy when they get the girl, she carries them around in her purse.
Oh fuck.
And pulls them out to wear as a piece of arm candy whenever she wants to show them off, and then back in the purse he goes.
Oh god.
So that's the archetype of the current elite class. The current elite class is a bunch of those guys. It's all, I mean, look at fucking Bill Gates. It's the guys who spent all of junior high and high school in their own locker, like inside their own locker. Those are the guys who dominate all of the bureaucracies today. I was just reading this tweet thread from Liz Wheeler talking about what the Department of the Navy is doing with people who are asking for exceptions from the you know what, and this whole list of all these guys. These are like officers in the military, and they're the flabbiest, dorkiest, frumpiest looking guys ever. All of the men who occupy positions of like extreme power in the US, except for maybe like Elon Musk, but even look at Bezos. He's starting to move away from that. Like they're all these like flabby little goobers. But the society has been structured such that flabby little goobers rise to the top and direct the working class blue collar underlings, who are all the alpha chads. And so what we're seeing now is all of the alpha chads are getting fed up with the kids who they threw in the locker in high school telling them what to do.
Because they're not abiding by the understanding.
Right, exactly. And it takes a lot to get these guys. These are the guys who just want to sit back and watch their football and watch college football and eat popcorn. And like, it's like, don't get me up. I'm bored. You know, no, don't. I don't want to go. No. And when you finally get them up and get them to leave the house, they're going to stir some shit up.
Yeah.
So when you think of the current cultural conflict from within that context, and understand that all of the wispy little twerps that occupy all the institutions are keenly aware of the fact every single one of them has his high school bully in his head when he's thinking about MAGA country. Every single one of them is thinking about the high school bully. And they are designing institutions explicitly to target and undermine and destroy their own high school bully. So they're going after anything that guy would prize, anything that would make that guy feel like a man. They're going after the NFL. They're going after their children. They're going after their women. They're going after everything. And the question is, at what point is that class going to erupt? and in what direction? This is the meme that they just wanted to grill. This is the football dad who just wanted to, work his 9 to 5 and have his weekends off and grill and throw a football around, check his fantasy team, and then go back to work on Monday. And now all the kids that he threw in the locker that he gave swirlies to in high school have all gotten him so riled up that he's going to go out and have to try to save his country. And I think that the biggest, I think that the best thing that anybody can be doing right now is attempting to harness that energy and direct it positively. Which means that anybody who's in the public eye who is targeting that constituency, which is pretty easy to tell when you're targeting that constituency. Anybody who's targeting that constituency and aren't thinking very, very keenly about what the effects will be of their messaging on that constituency, they are betraying a important responsibility. What are you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to make the same joke I always do. You don't think it's a good idea just to make fun of them and just sort of disenchant them with anything you have to say.
Yeah.
After their guy loses an election that is clearly squatted by voters.
Yeah. This is interesting. Thaddeus Russell makes the case that neoconservatism is basically a reaction to bullying from black kids on Jewish kids in New York. That's really interesting.
Listen, I want you to forget all that. I want you to go to palomaverde.com, palomaverdecbd.com, and make an order and use promo code KING. Because this comment just annoyed me into remembering that someone else, certainly not him, but someone else with that dumb name is number one on the leaderboard. And we take it it was a culture of winners, damn it. We need to be number one. I don't care how big this guy that I've never heard of, who's not Thaddeus Russell's show is, some other guy named Thaddeus. We need to be number one. So when you order your CBD products, do you have a spastic dog? Go buy that little motherfucker some dog treats. You know what I mean? Don't put up with that shit. You're going to start abusing it. Things are not going to get easier. You don't need a dog humping your leg and just freaking the fuck out all the time. Chill that little motherfucker out. Get some dog treats. palomaverdecbd.com. Promo code KING.
Carlos, can you vouch that your CBD dog treats will calm down spastic dogs that are trying to hump your leg all day? Can you verify that? Yeah. Okay, I can't remember if I was in the middle of a thought or where we were at with that.
It was the Jewish kids in New York and black.
Oh, Jewish, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That dynamic is fascinating to me, where you get this what has become like a global thing. Like, how many people across the world have died because some Jewish kids in New York got bullied by black kids when they were kids? Like, that dynamic, it starts out at this micro level and turns into the most murderous ideology of all time. It's just very I
like how we're going to lose our show for something that Thaddeus Russell said.
Yeah. Thanks, that's why I'm kind of trying to figure out how to wind that up.
Promo code KING. Promo code KING, for God's sakes.
For a very sharp segue here, the U.S. is in talks to offer immigrant families separated at the border.
You want to know what I was going to segue and I didn't because I love Carlos? I was going to say that if I was Carlos's twin brother, Farlos Abelar, I would fucking leave the country, renounce my citizenship, and then sneak in and then get separated from my family.
Yeah.
But I did not say it because it's like Carlos is too cool. So now we have to make this uncomfortable segue.
That would have been a perfect segue. But yeah.
I know.
For those of you who haven't heard, the U.S. is in talks to offer immigrant families separated at the border in 2018 about $450,000 a person in compensation. People familiar with the matter say. So, Don the plebs, I'm about to illegally immigrate to the U.S. And a guy replied, "This can't be possible." And Don said, "Might as well remove this phrase from your vocabulary at this point." It is all possible. Every last little bit of it is possible because we are in the dim age. That was the direction you thought I was going to take it, right?
Yes.
Oh man, it's so easy to just get addicted to scrolling through my Twitter timeline. So this ties into what we've been talking about. So another to me a banger of an insight from Rachel. She said
Quiet
traditional
Hunter.
culture. What?
No, this ain't Quiet Hunter, Rachel.
Oh. She said traditional culture is a system by which intergenerational wealth is acquired and maintained. Speaking of the Nomad Network, which is antithetical to the globalist. By 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. That's a very, very interesting point. Going back to that analogy, or the thing I was saying about the all the wispy little twerps thinking of their high school bullies as they're plotting to use technology to take over the world. They, when you think of it in this context, that each of these moves that is made is designed to separate middle class people, because that's the greatest indicator of a stable society is a burgeoning middle class, because a society that can sustain a middle class is basically by definition a stable society. So in order, I don't remember who said it, but someone said that basically what's happening is that ultra rich people are convincing poor people that moderately rich people are their enemies and responsible for every bad thing. And that the answer to it is to take everything that belongs to the moderately rich people and give it to the ultra rich people. And that will solve all the social ills. That's basically what's happening. So when you see things happen, when you see a new potential policy or you hear people talking about something, a really good rule of thumb is to imagine this, that the ultimate goal is for you to own nothing and be happy. The way this is going to be sold is actually kind of ironically is through like a nomadic lifestyle, a nomad economy. People are going to sell you on the idea of not having to own anything. You know, you'd be much happier if you never owned anything and you just rented everywhere you went. Renting houses, renting cars, renting anything. Just think about how many things you're not going to have to worry about having the liability of owning this thing or that thing or the other. And this is really going to appeal to a lot of millennials, Zoomers. I know it appeals to me. Before I started thinking about where this was going, I was like, that seems like, you're just not pinned down by anything. You're just free and you can travel and go around and go anywhere you want. There's a reason that human beings used to have a very, very strong affinity for their homeland, the actual physical ground where they came from. I mean, I know that Plato believed that that Greeks were literally, or Athenians specifically, were literally made out of the dirt in Athens. So they were literally at one with that soil. And that function of human psychology being attached to a physical geographical place, I think is valuable because it gives people a purpose, something to fight for, something to defend, something to tend, to culture, having that specific place. Detaching people from that and making them independent of a specific given place is a really good way to break them apart. A thought that I had this week was the word, if you've read the book Dominion by Tom Holland, you're familiar with this concept, that the word religion is there's a little bit of controversy over exactly where it came from, but it kind of came from two places, and it's used, and this is true, this interpretation of it is true, whether or not it's the actual only etymology of it. But there is the word religare. I don't know exactly how you would have pronounced it, but religare in Latin. It meant like to bind or to rebind, and to bind something together. So a religion is like that which binds the people together. So if your goal was to break people down, to separate them, to divide them apart from each other, you would attack their religion. You would try to undermine their religion. You undermine their religion, you break apart the ties that bind them together, you persuade them that they're not representatives of a community, they're individuals. They're atomized individuals. Each one of them is one self-sustained atomic unit of society. This is the sort of mindset you would want to implant in someone if your goal was to separate them from their family, from their tradition, from the history of their culture, and ultimately to separate them from their land. Ultimately, our concept of sovereignty is rooted in property ownership. So by connecting property rights with self-ownership, there has been created an incentive for those who want to dominate the world to acquire all of the land.
Kind of brings up a question here from Can you read it from Sandman?
Where is it here?
Like 3, 4 down.
Oh, renting? Who is the landlord?
Yeah. Taylor Dije. Muchas veces. Es el pinche Blackrock. Sí. El Rock Negro.
Cabrón.
I just wanted to do that, obviously. Yeah, it's like the first step is, and also this is shit that the constitutional conservatives and such that people like to beat up on, that I will defend to the death, increasingly less ironically, have known forever. Just they know you don't really own your land. You're renting it, from the government. That's what property tax is. And so that's sort of the first level of it. And so I guess if you could say that the mask is slipping and that they're moving on, but it's not that the mask is slipping. They're just proceeding to a more formal relationship where they're making you acutely aware of the fact that you don't own your land.
When someone takes a mask off, it's because they don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily because they've been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
It could be because they just doesn't matter. You can't do anything about it.
You see, and this sort of tied into what we were talking about in the beginning of the episode. But when you're talking about masks and stuff like that, I was in a restaurant here that voluntarily, this is where I'm at. If we're gonna do a little segment of what's it like where you live. The restaurants here are voluntarily enforcing like vaccine shit, and I did not know that this was even. I don't really go to restaurants and stuff like that, Vera. But I walked in, and like this big goofy Italian guy sort of tried to like body language block me from like going, and I could sort of tell he was doing it. And like he didn't have anybody at like the hostess stand or anything like that. And so I just kind of walked back to like where they were and stuff like that. And knowing full well that he was doing some weird body stuff, I got uncomfortably close, because just like, hey, if you don't want me in here, you better pay some bitch $15 an hour to work your fucking hostess stand, because I'll put you in that goddamn pizza oven, because I hate Italian people so much, most of them. But yeah, and then it was just sort of a miserable experience the whole time. And I've never had this impulse before, but like when I left, I was just like, I wish my great grandfather was somehow still around, and that there were people with influence that I could have called upon to just rectify that shit. So with that, please go join the Nomad Network and acquire a slightly more sophisticated level of influence. Thanks to Jason Stapleton. As you were. You are muted. Yep.
www.nomadnetwork.app/king.
That's right. Not Greek philosopher name.
I just want to highlight something that Sandman said here, back to the conversation about the Machiavellians. He said, I think Mosca said that ruling elite can't survive if it's a significantly different culture from the people over which they rule. I'm listening to Skeptical Waves' narration of his book, The Ruling Class. First, big shout out to Skeptical Waves. Go follow them on YouTube and listen to everything they post.
They were such a good like well kept secret for a while, to the point where you didn't want everyone else in the club.
Right.
Yeah, we were proud of it. It was great. A great YouTube channel.
Where like they would post a video, and after a couple weeks, it would have like 49 views on it, and you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm one of the special ones." yeah. Shout out Skeptical Waves. They're doing good work.
Is that a person or an organization or what? Do we know?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Um. So yeah, so the ruling elite can't survive if it's a significantly different culture from the people over which they rule. That's true. That's true because people will not let themselves be led by people who don't represent them. And this is all of the pain that's happening right now is people are realizing that not only does the ruling elite not represent them, they're explicitly hostile to them. And that is causing an existential crisis amongst middle America. But as they're coming to grips with that, they're looking around for leaders who do represent them, who do care about them, who do look like them and value their culture. That right there is why Donald Trump got elected. Precisely because of this, because the rest of the ruling class are all hostile to them, and Trump at least rolled them a breadcrumb. I mean, he tossed them a whole fucking muffin, but at the very least, like anybody who rolled them a breadcrumb, they would have jumped for, and they still do jump for. You see it all the time. Everyone on the Republican side is competing to try to feel appealing to that crowd while also not turning off the increasingly radical progressive fringe. So this is why you're seeing, as both of these dynamics are happening at the same time, you're seeing just the complete polarization of the society, because eventually the Republican Party is going to have to go one way or the other. The Democrat Party is going to have to go one way or the other. They're not going to leave their core constituency. So this is why it's very, very beneficial to us, regardless of what your actual political sympathies are, just from a strategic game theory perspective, it's very, very beneficial to have a Republican Party that's explicitly hostile to the regime. This is why Tho Bishop is doing the work that he's doing. Because if you can fan those sentiments and you can offer yourself as a leader to those people, you will have a significant constituency at your disposal. You just have to appreciate them for human beings and not consider them blood-soaked monsters because they've been misled. You have to actually recognize, at the very least, you have to recognize their political utility. If you can't do the rest, you're a fucking idiot if you can't just recognize their political utility.
You know, I think that people have this misconception, at least for when I use anything with the word power, that like, you know, people need to run out and just get power immediately and then change everything. You know, it's just like, you know, I like there's some secret for, oh, I know how to go get power and everyone will do what I said. Like, it's just like some really elementary understanding of, well, part of like the power thing is understanding what people are attracted to, but also, you know, demonstrating that you have any understanding of it whatsoever, so as not by alienating, I don't know, half the country ish. You know, like in terms of, you know, even if your goal is to, you know, convince people of your ideas or whatever, and it's not for like an actual, like, to take political action, any sort of number. It's just, there's, you know, you're just abandoning this huge swath of people who seem to be ripe for the picking, but really more ripe for the joining. You know, than
right? Yeah.
There's so many of them.
It's kind of like if you're coming up alongside a warship and you're in a little paddle boat, you don't invite all the people from the warship into your paddle boat. You say, "Hey, looks like your warship needs some repairing. Let me help you with that."
Yeah.
This is why I have more respect for Charlie Kirk than I do for the libertarians like the ANCAPs, who say stuff like that the Republicans have to repent of being blood-soaked monsters before, you know, and I'd have to like kneel and kiss my ring before I'll accept them into my movement. That mentality, I have more respect for Charlie Kirk because he at least recognizes the political utility of selling something to those people. He's completely an opportunist. He's just doing this for just accumulating power and wealth. He's not doing it because he's ideologically motivated in that direction. But he at least recognizes the opportunity there to improve himself. And I have more respect for that than I do for the people who can't even recognize the political opportunity. Sandman also points out something really interesting here, that John Lennon's Imagine. No religion, no heaven, living for today, high time preference, no countries, nothing to kill or die for, no possessions. This is now, Amy is going to be super triggered by us talking about this song because she despises this song for good reason, because my wife has has delightful sensibilities, and she has a very good intuition. She recognizes that this is a recipe for a meaningless automaton of a person with no religion, no heaven, nothing to live for, nothing to kill or die for. All of those things are a recipe for a really, really shitty existence. So it's no question that this is the sort of thing that's being pushed increasingly on the populace. And this is where the whole non-aggression debate, this right here is where it breaks down. Because if you can't acknowledge that this sort of thing is an aggression, you're helpless. This spiritual aggression is aggression too. And people who are committing spiritual aggressions need to be responded to accordingly. They need to be removed from their position. They need to be removed from their ability to influence people because they're poisoning people's minds. And if you don't agree with that philosophically, you could at least recognize that this sort of mind poison is driving people away from any chance of your conception of liberty. Person who would argue with me on this. Your idea of like a private law society, you're going to get a private law society. The private company is going to be Pfizer. They're going to be the ones owning your society. They're going to convert your home to explicitly private property and tell you to participate in this test or be removed from your home. It's a private company, bro. This is the Antichrist, to get to the title of the show today. This is the Antichrist. I'm going to put a couple of links. I thought about reading through them on the show today, but they're just too long. So I'm going to put a couple of links in the description afterwards. You can go click these and read them. One of them is...
So...
What?
Just be aware of that. I said he's not, so just be aware of that.
I will. I have them open. I will.
Links, you better join that supporting listeners group, motherfucker.
Yeah, they'll definitely be there. So the first one is an article just written by Rod Dreher over at the American Conservative, who can be forgiven his boomercon tendencies for this fantastic little thing that he wrote up. The majority of it really is him just quoting a couple of other people, but he's the one who put the quotes together and connected them. So hat tip to him. It's called The Age of Antichrist is Here. And in it, he links to a Jonathan Pajot piece, which is, it's actually the transcript of his video on the surprising symbolism of 666. And it's very, very... It's extremely interesting, especially if you're interested in like symbology and numerology and gematria and that kind of thing. There's a good bit of that in the Jonathan Pajot one, which I'm, again, Language of Creation, Matthew Pajot. That's my next book on my reading list. I'm going to dive into it, and I'm very excited to see where that takes me. So Jonathan Pajot talks about the meaning of 666. Now, if people are thinking that it's going to be something super spicy and sexy, you're gonna get let down. It's not super spicy and sexy. It's not like, like I grew up as a Seventh-day Adventist believing that the Pope was the Antichrist. That was the position of the Adventist Church when I was growing up. And I spent a long time.
Today.
What's that?
I mean, they're right today. If you grew up today.
Yeah, literally. They're right. Yeah, right. Yeah. They're right in a way that they didn't realize they were right. They're, because Antichrist really, one of the things you get from this is that Antichrist isn't necessarily a specific figure. Now, it can be, and it very well may be, but it's also an archetype. It's an archetype that can be embodied by a lot of people in a lot of different contexts. But basically what it is a totalizing system that presents itself as more Christ-like than Christ. And it requires participation in the system. And then there's an element of sacrifice there. So it's an inversion of the Christian concept of sacrifice and worship with God. It's sacrificing to another God in worship of oneself. These are subjects we've kind of sprinkled throughout the show up until this point, but it's a subject that I'm wanting to really dig into a lot more going forward to really understand this, because you're starting to see this, and there's the meme about the Antichrist going around, but then you're starting to see things like this, like Rod Dreyer's thing about his. I mean, he wrote it. The Age of Antichrist is here, and I'll just give a couple of quotes from it here, just to give you guys an idea, and then you can go read the rest of it yourself. He said, okay, I find the theory of the Orthodox Christian thinker Jonathan Pajot persuasive, that the Antichrist 666 is not necessarily a single man, though it might be, but the number refers to a total godless system. He writes, in part, and now he's quoting Pajot, so we have to be very attentive as these patterns play themselves out. As these patterns start to appear to us in the world, we have to not look for the Ozzy Osbourne dark Satanist who's going to be wearing all black and looking like a ghoul coming out of the earth. That is not what 666 looks like. 666 looks like a luminous system that seems like it contains everything and control everything. And that is why it is so seductive. That is why it can delude us if we're not careful. Because to not participate or to not, let's say, worship this system can exclude you from the discourse. It makes it very easy to compromise in that sense. So this is the global technocracy that is being developed through the internet, and now through the internet being in devices that are following us around everywhere, that are constantly listening. Imagine if you could see all of the signals, Wi-Fi, cell signals, all these different signals that are going around all over the place. Normally you can't see them at all, but imagine if you could. You would see quite literally a web. We call it the web, the net. We call it, like, we have this terminology it like already in our usage, in our common vernacular. But that's something that we're becoming entrapped in. Most people cannot survive without this. They don't, like, if they don't have it, their life comes to a stop until they get it again. And I'm including myself in this. I'm as attached to this as anybody, especially given the types of work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a system.
I have to ask you a question, actually.
What?
Have you ever? This is tough. It hasn't happened in a while, but like if I wake up in the morning, I think in my home screen, I think in like a notification. Have you had that experience? I hope not.
I haven't had that, but I've had the experience of, as I'm trying to think of a message or trying to think of something to say to someone, I've had the experience of seeing myself typing it in my head.
Yeah, that's why in many ways, I remember, I think I was in high school, and I think what I was thinking was like really deep at the time, but like it was some people would talk about artificial intelligence, and I was like, I think I say we are artificial intelligence, and that was just highlighting the idea that first of all, I didn't know what artificial intelligence meant, and I basically still don't. But just the idea of looking for answers, on the computer, Googling or whatever it was, and whatever that newfangled thing was at the time, Bing, Ask Jeeves, Jeeves is artificial intelligence. But yeah, but in many ways, it's just like, oh yeah, that was actually kind of true, maybe. And in terms of like the whole transhumanism thing, like looming, it's like we're there maybe a little bit already. Mm-hmm. We're already. It's just like it's outside. It's an external, like like an external hard drive or whatever. That's kind of the only thing. It's still a hard drive,
right?
And like it's all just outside of us ish, but it's kind of inside of us too. But yeah, in terms of, that's just where it's going.
See you, Jim.
It's just where it's going.
This here, let's see here. Before I get to that one, I want to just highlight this. Another good one from Sandman. He said, Panopticon Sauron. That's a good image. I heard someone saying the web spider symbolism is associated with the female Jungian or something. Sorry, I'm a pleb. Like the web is a devouring mother. Maybe like Shelob from Lord of the Rings. That's more compelling imagery. Sudoku Politburo, welcome Josiah, friend of the show. He said they're looking for a good king as bad kings are trying to take over the world. The libertarian response, you don't need kings, read Acts.
That's so when that was
in a sentence.
the sort of reaction that just kind of comes down to that conservation of power idea too, that they seem to be allergic to. But it was, not that you have any say in particular, especially if you're libertarian, but like, if it became clear that there was going to be some sort of autocrat, like, would you concern yourself with the discussion of who the autocrat should be, how you could get a more favorable autocrat, or would you
argue about weed laws?
Or yeah, right. Or would you sort of abstain from it and use that? There's a GIF that I've found. All I had to do was search "proud of myself," and
that's what it is. Okay,
it's perfect. It's perfect. I hope it becomes ubiquitous and just like a whole meme, and like I never get credit for it, but that girl, she kind of like tosses her hair, but she like thinks for a second and just kind of goes, yeah, like that.
Let me find it.
It's my favorite thing. But you can't even screen share, Bubula.
I figured out how to.
Oh, well, look at you.
Here it is. Okay.
He's becoming transhuman, everybody.
Uh-oh. I'm ascending to meta.
Mm-hmm.
This one. This is perfect. This is just absolutely pristine.
Who did I say? Oh, I retweeted Michael Malice's poll and said that stayed as him.
Yeah. Because this is the like every little Lolbert who auto replies to anything and says, like, as long as they're not using force, I'm very, very happy that you've introduced this to my life, because this, yeah, I just see this every time in my head when I see one of those reply guys who hops in and says something like that. That's what I see them replying as her. She's the chick from Arthur. There's a TV show. I can't remember what Merlin.
If you're in like libertarian circles and like a girl that is that good looking starts talking to you, she's a Fed. I just want you to know that. Yeah. I don't know anything about NRX girls or post libertarian girls or if they even exist or anything like that, but I know libertarian girls don't look like that.
Oh my God. Amy just clarified. So I didn't completely follow that conversation with the strippers and weed and everything yesterday because I was busy making sure my head didn't explode. At one point, I haven't told Amy this yet, but at one point I was like, okay, if this pain dials up any further, then my focus is going to shift from, oh, I've got a pinched nerve in my neck to, do I have a brain bleed or something? Because like this was the most severe headache I've ever had, but thankfully it dialed back and everything got better and I feel better now today. But so I didn't really follow this conversation yesterday, but so it wasn't just strippers. The thing that this guy was upset about, that he's responding to a woman with her child displayed in her profile picture. He was upset that Texas banned barely legal strippers. So anyone under 21.
There we go.
This is what people are concerned about. While, what was it? Panopticon Sauron is being created and put into place.
To be fair, they're not the best at nuance.
Yeah. Apparently, even the spelling escapes them sometimes. I do like that it apparently provided Pete with like a whole day's worth of content to just make people just scream about. So the to get to the, okay, where were we with this? We were okay, Jonathan Pajot's quote on 666. So I'll start it over. He said, so we have to be very attentive as these patterns play themselves out. As these patterns start to appear to us in the world, we have to not look for the Ozzy Osbourne dark Satanist who's going to be wearing all black and looking like a ghoul coming out of the earth. That is not what 666 looks like. 666 looks like a luminous system that seems like it contains everything and can control everything. And that is why it is so seductive. That is why it can delude us if we're not careful. Because to participate or to not, let's say, worship this system can exclude you from the discourse. That makes it very easy to compromise in that sense. Back to Dreyer. Not long ago, I read that the Romans tattooed slaves on their hands or foreheads, so they would never be able to escape. It hit me then that the mark of the beast, seen by St. John, was not necessarily a literal mark on the forehead or hand, though it might be, but that symbolically it meant that you had to be a slave to the system in order to participate economically. That is, to earn a living. As a Christian, I certainly believe this dark totalitarian world will one day come into being. It's easy to fall down a rabbit hole of guessing when that might be, and it's something I never do. But I gotta say, the shape of the thing really does seem to be coming into being. In 2019, I wrote this piece, which is linked, after two prominent Catholic cardinals warned the age of Antichrist might be upon us, both of them referencing the confused teaching coming from Pope Francis as a dangerous sign of the times. The intellectual giant Rene Girard, a Catholic, wrote around the turn of the century that we were in perilous times. Quote, "The current process of spiritual demagoguery and rhetorical overkill has transformed the concern for victims into a totalitarian command and a permanent inquisition. We are living through a caricatural ultra-Christianity that tries to escape from the Judeo-Christian orbit by radicalizing the concern for victims in an anti-Christian manner. The intellectuals and other cultural elites have promoted Christianity to the role of number one scapegoat. Girard says we are at the advent of what he calls the other totalitarianism, saying that it is, quote, the most cunning and malicious of the two, the one with the greatest future by all evidence. At present, it does not oppose Judeo-Christian aspirations, but claims them as its own and questions the concern for victims on the part of Christians, not without a certain semblance of reason at the level of concrete action, given the deficiencies of historical Christianity. The other totalitarianism does not openly oppose Christianity, but outflanks it on its left wing. This is what I was talking about several weeks ago, a few months ago, when I said that the modern wokeist movement is a radical Christianity attempting to purge Christianity. They're looking back at the previous generation and saying, you guys talked up a big game about Christianity, but look at all these areas where you fell short, where you didn't behave your Christianity. We're going to be even more Christian than you by not being Christian. We're going to live and affect the world in the way that Christians claim to, while explicitly repudiating Christianity. And that is the sentiment that now occupies the central soul of the regime. So it's claiming to be better at being Christianity than Christianity is. You look like you wanted to say something. Okay. So let's see here. Sudoku Politburo Josiah says it's a reverse ultimatum. Just don't do this one thing, violate a non-contextualized principle that itself is debated every time it's mentioned, and the world's yours. Okay, he's talking about the nap. Because he said if your society can't clearly define human, the nap has no possible application. Whether it is correct or not is another matter. And that's so into this context here, there's a panopticon being created that is keenly aware of Christianity to the extent that it sees itself as a new and improved Christianity. So if you were going to combat that, if you're going to attempt to get that new order to not take hold, would you not want to promote or sustain or preserve the order that it's trying to replace, the true Christian order? This is why degeneracy is the lifeblood of the Antichrist. Because think about degeneracy. Something's being degenerated. What is being degenerated? The thing that's being degenerated is the old order, so that it can be replaced by the new order. The new order, a better Christianity, a Christianity that actually has concern for all the victims, because this is a Christianity that respects the individual. This is a Christianity built on the conception of human rights, and there are universal human rights. We have to respect all of these human rights because everyone is an individual, and anything that suppresses the individuality of a single person is unacceptable. So now we will all unite to prevent the suppression of the individual. The irony of it is that the hypocrisy is startling, but it's a feature. that is how the system functions, because it is Christianity claiming to be a better Christianity. It's pseudo-Christianity claiming to be a better Christianity. And this is what the Antichrist is. This is the spirit of Antichrist. And it frames itself in really positive, glowing terms. It presents itself as genuine compassion. And that all of this stuff is all for the best interests of the poor and impoverished people. Now we see there's that video yesterday of the lizard, the gigantic dinosaur, speaking at the World Economic Forum or whatever. And the whole thing is, now we need to be concerned about climate change because our whole planet is going to become uninhabitable. So clearly the thing we need to be concerned about is all the most impoverished people. Because if we start focusing on solutions to take care of the poor, downtrodden, poor people, then that'll stop climate change. Like, it doesn't. All of these things are just pretexts. This is formal meanings. They're just pretexts for the underlying system. The underlying system that's being brought in to take you to the point of the 2030, you own nothing and you're happy. Now, what I want to tie that in with as we kind of wrap things up here, because we're almost at 2 hours. There's another angle that we're going to kind of get into some stuff here going forward in the future. Speaking of Josiah, I'm actually going to have a conversation with him about this, and we're trying to figure out how to make these ideas palatable, how to make them transferable to people. But basically,
fuck that dude.
What?
Don't let him lie to you. Him and Josiah are gonna fuck that guy. They're gonna. They were his target. And they're gonna fly out to wherever he is, and
kidnap him.
It's all gonna change.
One of the
it needs a better messenger for certain.
Yeah.
So that part's taken care of. You're already halfway there.
It's so speaking on you brought up transhumanism a little while ago.
Yeah.
So
it's already happening. Yep.
You can see the transhumanist impulse behind all of these. I mean, the very concept of an mRNA vaccine is transhumanism. The idea here is that your natural immune system won't function properly. It needs an artificial boost. It needs this other thing to make your immune system function properly. I think they
were looking for a quicker way to synthesize proteins, but I don't know. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah, sure.
I'm here to play devil's advocate.
I think that I think I'm saying things that are all acceptable. I'm not trying to promote medical misinformation. I think that I think they would gladly acknowledge that this is the case, that this is a transhumanist escapade. Because they're trying to perfect the human body. They see the human body as a fundamentally flawed thing that spiritually needs to be accepted exactly as it is, but physically needs to be refined and perfected through human technology.
Not even 1.2 thousand. Huh. Okay.
So there's people think of death in really negative terms, and that's because it has a lot of really negative effects on people. So it's not a bad thing to think of death in really negative terms. However, in the Christian context, if you've listened to Lord of Spirits, you remember there was a part where they talked about how at Eden, at the fall in Eden, when man was banished from the garden, man became mortal. Man then had the capacity to die. And a lot of people, that may seem like that was a real downgrade. That's a pretty big change. But, and if for more on this, I can send you, if you want more on this, I can send you in places to learn about it. I'm just going to state it here explicitly for the people who source. The gift of death was a gift because when man sinned, were he to be immortal and have that sin, he would not have the capacity for repentance. Repentance is only possible for mortal beings. So, for example, angels who fall, become demons, they don't have the capacity for repentance. They can't change. They've fallen, they will remain fallen. So they're trying to take down as many humans with them as they can. This is the orthodox perspective of what's happening right now. There's a spiritual war, powers and principalities. Yeah. So the gift of death was a gift because it gives you the opportunity to change yourself. You can grow, you can learn, and you can grow, and you can improve, and you can repent. What is coming down the line with this transhumanism thing is an attempt to conquer death. People are attempting to, and I believe that they will succeed in a manner of speaking, to actually be able to technologically make you immortal. But there will be a cost that comes with that. The cost will be that you give up your soul. You'll surrender your soul in return for being made immortal. This is why altar call time. This is why these sorts of, how can I say this delicately? These sorts of requirements being made universal is a pretext for more requirements being made universal. And economically, if you are not in a secure position where you can be, where you can extract yourself from this system, it's going to develop a gravitational pull that's going to suck you in harder and harder and harder. That's until you can't get out. They're doing this economically. I mean, this is the thing with high inflation. They're going to price people right out of their homes. You're not going to be able to own anymore. Oh, you're going to have to rent. Oh, do you want to be able to sign a rental contract? Oh, you have to have this sort of legal document. You want to get that sort of legal document? You got to go into a federal building. You want to go into a federal building? You got to get this thing. That's the sort of process that we're going to get to. So if you're not preparing now to put yourself in a position where you even have the option to raise up little kings to become the kings who save and rule over future societies, then you have to be making moves on this now. That's why you got to join the Nomad Network.
And what better way to do that than to join the Nomad Network? Help me memorize this. What do we tell them to go to join the Nomad Network?
www.nomadnetwork.app/king.
Okay. /king.
/king.
That was my nickname in high school. /king.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
It's a good thing you got a guitar there. You just got to get your hair down over your face.
We done?
No, I was just letting you
Okay.
do your thing.
I thought it would be really funny if you just ended the stream like that.
It actually would. Did you want to do the thing that we talked about at the beginning, the every Thursday thing?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Let's do it.
So one thing that Popular Liberty says that Fuck Johnson is going to smash that guitar. What you don't realize is that Fuck Johnson is holding that guitar. So one thing that Steven wanted to do was to start, and this isn't Steven forcing this on me. I thought it was a great idea. Start reading a psalm at the end of every Thursday episode that we do. So today I thought that a great one to start off with would be Psalm 82. And again, Lord of Spirits listeners, you'll recognize it. This is the basis for Lord of Spirits is this psalm. So it's the little title that the Bible Gateway calls it is Rescue the Weak and Needy. And it says, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment. Now, that first verse there is has there's a guy named Michael Heiser who wrote, not to be confused with Michael Heiss, Michael Heiser, who he wrote a book which the name of it is escaping me. Someone's going to say it before I can look it up. But Michael Heiser, who is not an Orthodox Christian, The Unseen Realm. He's not an Orthodox Christian, but reading his book made me interested in Orthodox Christianity. This book here this verse here was one of the biggest like mind blowers for him when he actually looked at what it said, because in the Hebrew the word Elohim is kind of our word God. It's used kind of generically and specifically to mean God, and it's not Yahweh. But it's another word that's used to mean God. It also means gods, so it's like the word sheep, that it can be singular or plural, and it can be used for God himself. It can also be used to refer to lesser gods. So what this verse says is that God has taken his place in the divine council. So Elohim has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the Elohim, he holds judgment. And you can see in the Hebrew grammar there that the first one is singular. God has taken his place. And in the midst of the Elohim, plural, he holds judgment. That was the verse that got Michael Heiser started, and he ended up writing his book, The Unseen Realm, based on that understanding that we have this idea of I'm getting tired. One God. I can't remember the word for one God for whatever reason. Monotheism. And that actually is not. Monotheism was something that was invented within the last couple hundred years, and it wasn't like they didn't have the words monos and theos. They could have said monotheism if that's what they meant. So the Christian worldview or Orthodox Christian worldview has an understanding of many gods. So God has taken his place in the divine council in the midst of many gods. Yahweh is the God of the gods. And this is what he says to the gods in the divine council. He says, "How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked." That message is being delivered to the divine council of other gods. Now, for more on this, go listen to Lord of Spirits. But the quick and dirty of it is that those other gods in the divine council were created and given authority over the nations. They were put in positions of authority to care for the nations and to basically serve as images of God himself. Some of them fell by accepting that worship for themselves rather than it being given to God. They became demons. That's what demonic powers today are, fallen angels in a very real sense. So here, what he tagged them with when he called them to account is judging unjustly and showing partiality to the wicked. And what the thing they were failing on was giving justice to the weak and the fatherless. Fatherless would be someone without a king, someone whose king doesn't represent him or her, and maintaining the right of the afflicted and the destitute. He said, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. I've talked about this before. These people in middle America who you want to take a message of liberty, or some people want to take a message of, here, believe in this intellectual bunch of ideas about property rights. These are people who need an advocate. They need someone to rescue them. They need someone to provide for the weak and the needy, to give justice to the weak and the fatherless. If you start thinking from that perspective, rather than this perspective of, I have this knowledge I need to dispense to people, they need to share my view of the world, and then everything will be great. If you start from the perspective of, my responsibility is to go to these people and to protect them, to provide for them, to be a leader for them. Once you start from that perspective, then you don't have these things like, you don't have to worry about these things like the nap. You don't have to, that sort of thing is like, that's there to tell you the thing that's already obvious, that you should know, obviously. You shouldn't need some principle to try to niggle around with. Niggle.
Fuck.
Continuing. Back to the Bible. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. The foundations of the earth were this is more Lord of Spirit stuff. But when you think of like the sun, moon, and stars being treated as gods, that's because there are gods appointed to them to care for them. Like the workings of the earth is what God created, not the earth, but reality, the universe. The workings of the universe are why God has created angels and men to help caretake the universe. So the foundations of the earth are shaken. And this, you could read it a number of different ways, but in this particular context, it sounds like the foundations of the earth are shaken because gods who were appointed, who God himself appointed to care for the earth, to shepherd the earth, abandoned their duty post and have led men astray with them. God says, I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. The story, at the end of the day, according to the Bible, we understand that the story is that God returns and takes back all of these nations that had been appointed to the lesser gods who abandoned their duty posts. God, arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all the nations. Seems like a good spot to stop. You got any more guitar for us as we leave?